Okay, question 1. We've been given an equation y equals 3x minus 1, and we're asked to complete the table of values. X is 1, 2 and 3. Okay, so we've got a relationship here between y and x. The y coordinate is the x coordinate tripled and then take away 1. So if the x coordinate was 1, that would be 3 lots of 1 take away 1. That's 3 minus 1, and that's 2. Okay, so if the x coordinate was 2, then it would be y equals 3 lots of 2 minus 1, which is 6 minus 1, which is 5. And then finally, if the x coordinate was 3, then that would be 3 lots of 3 minus 1. 3 3s are 9, minus 1 is 8. And I've got a y coordinate of 8. Okay, the question then asks me to draw out what that straight line would look like. Okay, so first of all, I've got a point 1, 2. So that's 1 along 2 up. You'll be given a grid for this. And then we've got a point 2, 5. And finally at a point 3, 8. Okay, and then I just look to draw the straight line through. Okay, question 2, I'm asked to find the equation of the straight line. And each mark here represents a movement of 1. So I'm looking to find the equation of the straight line. This one here. Okay, so it goes through 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes through the y-axis at 4. So the equation is y equals 4. This one would have an equation of y equals minus 1. This one would have an equation of y equals minus 3. So it's just y equals whatever it goes through. This one, for example, would be y equals 2. Okay, question 3, and I'm solving some equations. So the first one is 2x plus 4 is equal to 9. So I bring the 4 over to the other side, and that will be 9 take away 4, 2x will be equal to 5, and x is equal to 5 over 2. Question B, I've got 4x minus 3 is equal to 7. So that will be 4x equals, bring the 3 to the other side, make it a plus. 7 plus 3 is 10, x equals 10 over 4. I can simplify that by dividing top and bottom by 2, and that will give me 5 over 2. Question C, I've got 5y plus 1 is equal to minus 6. So that will be 5y equals minus 6 minus 1 is minus 7, and y is equal to minus 7 over 5. Part D, 3y plus 4 equals minus 9. So 3y equals, bring that across, minus 13. Y is equal to minus 13 over 3. Okay, question 4 is some changes subject to the formula. I've got A equals 4b plus 5. The question is asking me to change subject to the formula to B. So that means that the equation must start with B. So first of all, let's swap them round. If A equals 4b plus 5, then it follows that 4b plus 5 is equal to A. Okay, so let's start eliminating things. So bring the 5 to the other side, that's take away 5, and the times 4 comes to the other side becomes divide by 4. And that's B equals A minus 5 over 4. P is equal to 5t plus 7. Change the subject of the formula this time to t. So 5t plus 7 is equal to p. And then bring the 7 across. 5t equals p minus 7. And then bring the 5 down, divide p minus 7 over 5. Part C, let's go for g equals 4n minus 9, change the subject of the formula to n. So 4n minus 9 is equal to g. 4n is equal to g plus 9, taking the minus across the other side and making it plus. And then n is equal to g plus 9, bring the 4 times down and divide, so that's g plus 9 over 4. Okay, part D, let's go for q is equal to 5m minus 0.3. Change the subject formula to m. So 5m minus 0.3 is equal to q. I've then got 5m equals to q plus 0.3. And then m is equal to q plus 0.3. And the 5 times becomes divide by 5. Okay, question 5 is some Pythagoras. Okay, so I'm told that the length of this side is 5 and the length of this side is 13, and that's x, and I have to find the length of x. Okay, so it's a right angle triangle, so I can apply Pythagoras. I'm looking for a shorter side. Remember with Pythagoras that the side that faces the right angle is the hypotenuse, that's always the longest side. But if you're looking for a shorter side, then you subtract. So it's x squared equals 13 squared minus 5 squared. That's x squared equals 169 minus 25. That's x squared equals 144. X is then equal to the square root of 144, and x is equal to 12. Let's try a question B. Okay, so this time call that Q. This side is 9 and this side is 15. There's the right angle, so given the hypotenuse, we're looking for a shorter side. Subtract q squared equals 15 squared minus 9 squared. Q squared is equal to 225 minus 81. Q squared equals 144. Q equals the square root of 144, and Q is equal to 12. Okay, the next question asks me to enlarge this diagram here, given a scale factor of 5 over 2. So that means that this diagram is going to be made 5 over 2 times bigger. So if I was to take that line there, for example, that's going to be 5 over 2 times bigger. So 5 over 2 times 4. Okay, so divide by the bottom and times by the top. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 times 5 is 10, so that line will need to be 10. Okay, these ones here, these diagonal lines, so 5 over 2 times 2, 2 divided by 2 is 1, 1 times 5 is 5. This one will be 5 over 2 of 6, so 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 3 times 5 is 15, and finally this one is going to be 5 over 2 of 8, so 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 4 times 5 is 20. So I now need to have this line being 20 boxes, this one being 15 boxes, this one being 5, and this one being 10. Okay, so just draw it as such. You'll be given a grid, so that needs to be 20 boxes along, 15 boxes down. That will now be 5 diagonal boxes, and then 10 across, another 5 diagonal boxes, and 15 back up. Okay, next question. I've been given this diagram and told that this angle is 131 degrees, this angle is 68 degrees, and I'm told to find the shaded angle. Okay, so this is just some properties of angles. Okay, now first of all I can say that these angles are equal. Those are called opposite angles, so that angle in there is 68 degrees. Okay, now I can also say that that's a F angle. So if that's 131, that one's also 131. I can now find this angle in here, since a straight angle is 180 degrees. So let's try and get that. So the straight angle is 180, and there is 131. So that will be 180, take away the 131, which would give me 49 degrees in here. I then know that the 3 angles in the triangle add up to 180. So let's call this angle X then. So I'll add up both angles that I've got, 68 plus 49. So 8 and 9 is 17, 7 down carry 1, 6 and 4, and 1 is 11, that's 117. So the angle then will be 180, take away 117, and that is 63 degrees. So let's just go over that again. So I was given this information here, 68 degrees, which means the opposite angle must also be 68. I was given the information here that that's 131, so that lies in an F angle with this one. So if that's 131, so is this one. I then found this angle in here, since that straight angle is 180. As soon as I've got both of these angles here, I can then add them together to get a total and take that total from 180, which will give me the final answer, 63 degrees. Okay, next question. I've been given a circle and a centre point, and there's a triangle that lies in a semicircle. Now, any triangle that lies on a semicircle, where the 3 points of the corners of the triangle are on the semicircle, will create a right angle triangle. So the question won't tell you that, but that angle is always 90 degrees. It's just a law. Now, we're also told that this angle in here is 61 degrees, and I need to find this angle, which is marked X. So remember that angles in a triangle are adding up to 180, so that's 90 plus 61 will give me 151, and then to get the third angle, I take that from 180, and that will give me 29 degrees. So here's another example, and I need to find the shaded angle here. Okay, so even though I've not been told, I know that that's 90 degrees. Let's say the question gives me that information, which is 21 degrees. Okay, so it's 90 plus 21, which is 111 degrees. And to get the shaded angle then, let's call that SA for shaded angle, that'll be 180 take away 111, which will give me 69 degrees. Final answer. Okay, next question is some trig. I've been given a right angle triangle. I'm told that this side here is 13 metres, and I'm going to call this side X, and this angle here is 28 degrees, and I have to calculate the length of X. Okay, so this is a SOHCAHTOA question. So for SOHCAHTOA right angle trigonometry, if you're looking for a side, you tick off the side you've got and the side you're looking for. Okay, so that's the hypotenuse, that is the opposite, and that is the adjacent. So you tick off the side you've got and the side you're looking for. So we've got the adjacent, and we're looking for the opposite. Where you get 2 ticks, that's your ratio, so we're using the tan ratio. So that's tan of 28 is equal to the opposite over the adjacent. That's tan 28 is equal to, well, the opposite is what we're looking for, that's X over the adjacent, which is 13. Okay, I can then bring that up and multiply, so X will be equal to tan 28 multiplied by 13, and then you enter that into your calculator. Okay, and that'll give me a result of 6.9 metres. Okay, let's try question B. This time I'm told that the angle in here is 57 degrees, and that this is X, and I'm given this, which is 20 metres. The question's asking me to calculate X. Okay, so let's label our sides. That is the hypotenuse, that's the opposite, and that's the adjacent. Okay, so tick off the side we've got, tick off the side that we're looking for. So as you can see, we've got the hypotenuse, so let's tick that off. And we're looking for the adjacent, so let's tick that off. And there's 2 ticks at C, so that's cos ratio. So that's cos of 57 is equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse. That's cos 57 is equal to the adjacent, which is X, which is what I'm looking for, divided by the hypotenuse, which is 20. Bring that up and multiply, and X equals cos 57 multiplied by 20, enter that into your calculator. And to 1 decimal place, that is 10.9 metres. Okay, let's try one more. And this time I'm told that this angle here is 25 degrees. It's a right angle triangle, that side's X, and that side is 17 metres. Okay, so that's the hypotenuse, that is the opposite, and this is the adjacent. SOHCAHTOA, tick off the side you've got, tick off the side that you're looking for. So we've been given the hypotenuse, and we're looking for the opposite. So this time it is a sine ratio question. So sine of 25 is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. Sine of 25 is equal to the opposite, which is x, which is what we're looking for over the hypotenuse, which is 17. Bring that up and multiply, and that's x equals sine 25 multiplied by 17, which is equal to 7.2 metres. Okay, next question. We're given this right angle triangle, and we're told that this is representative of a ramp, and the ramp is got a hill which is 40 metres from this point to this point, and we're told that the overall height then is 11 metres, and this angle is called x degrees. Now, for safety reasons, the angle of the ramp is to be no more than 17 degrees, so does it meet safety regulations? Okay, so another SOHCAHTOA question. That's the opposite. That is the hypotenuse, and this is the adjacent, but this time we're looking for an angle. So with SOHCAHTOA questions, when you're looking for an angle, you tick off both sides that you've got. So we've got the opposite and we've got the hypotenuse, and that's going to be a sine ratio question. So it's sine of x degrees is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. Sine of x is equal to the opposite, which is 11 over the hypotenuse, which is 40. X equals sine inverse 11 over 40, so I'll punch that into the calculator. So the sine inverse button, open up a bracket, 11 divided by 40, close the bracket and hit equals. And to one decimal place, that will give me 16.0 degrees. Okay, so yes, ramp is safe since it meets regulations, because 16 degrees is less than the safety limit of 17 degrees. Okay, next question. We've got scores in a test, test A and test B, and we've got 6 pupils that sit a test. Test A and then Test B, both tests are out of 50 marks. You can see that Tom get 31 for Test A, 34 for Test B, and then Jane 40 and 50, and then so on. The question asked me to draw a scatter graph of these pieces of information. So for Tom, he got 31 for Test A, so that's just slightly after 30, and he get 34 for Test B, which is just about here, and his dot would be about there. Okay, so just slightly after 30 for Test A and 34 for Test B, so his dot would be about there. Okay, Jane got 40 in Test A and 50 in Test B, so her dot would be there. Alan get 22, which is about there, and 25, which is about here, so that would give a dot about there. Mia get 30 and 27, so 30 in Test A and 27, which would be about there, so her dot would be about there. John was 32 and 40, so 32 and 40, and the dot would be about there. Finally, Anna, 19 and 25, so 19 along and 25 up, and that would be about there. Okay, the question then asked me to draw a scatter graph, so there's my dots. So for a scatter graph, you need to have a straight line that will go through the dots, and it goes through roughly the middle, so you want roughly the same number of dots on each side. So if you've got 1, 2, 3 dots on one side, you should roughly have 1, 2, 3 dots on the other side. So that would be a decent scatter graph. Okay, the question then says that Kerr scored 12 marks for test A, and the question is asking me to estimate his mark for test B. So it's just an estimate, and we're going to use this graph to do so. Okay, so for test A, get 12, which is about here. So if we go up to the graph and along, that roughly gives me about 5 marks for test B. So the estimate for test B would be 5 marks.